Hi, Rev Scott here, and we're continuing with looking at this baptism. And we just looked briefly that baptism was entering into God's kingdom. It was the symbol, the doorway into God's kingdom. But it is also the entry into the church. It's the beginning of your journey with church. You're baptized into the church. And so, what does church even look like? Now, this is my church here. And today we have organs, we have the all-important hymn board, we have Bibles, we have hymn books, we have baptismal fonts, all the things that we would associate with church. The thing though is, if we look at the early church, they didn't have any of it. There was no building, no structure, no organizational body, no employees or worship groups, no hour-long services that can't go over 5 minutes, or welcome teams, no Bibles, no hymn books. It was just as simply a community of believers with a blank canvas, worshipping God with all their heart, mind, soul, and strength. And yet, it was a very effective church. There would have been structure that was starting to build into that, but they took this blank canvas and they started to dream what church should be like. The Bible was only written many years later, so they had to rely on the teaching of other people. Baptism would have been in the local river. They met in the temple courts, they met in people's homes. They didn't have a structure to their service. They sang hymns, and well, the first day must have been quite odd because all they had was the Jewish hymns, and then hymns would have been created with a Christian theme. But there was something raw and authentic and wonderful about that church. They were desperately sincere about their faith. Maybe in all our structures, we have lost the heart of what we're doing. We gather to worship. We welcome people in through baptism into a living organization, the church. And so what we're wanting to do as we go forward is start to look at how this church started to find its shape, and see whether the church still has that shape, or are there many things that have got snuck in that maybe lead us away from Christ. And so I long for that real authentic church, and I think that COVID has given us the opportunity to reinvent ourselves and put the important things first. Won't you join me as I look again and see how the church began and what it could look like in the future? God bless.